Welcome to the Conscious Pivot Podcast with international speaker, business mentor, best-selling author of Pivot, and your host, Adam Markel. The Conscious Pivot shares the stories and wisdom of people who have successfully reinvented some area of their business and personal life. You'll gain powerful insights into how you can fully embrace new opportunities, increase your performance, and master the art and science of innovation and resilience. So please join Adam as he guides you on your conscious pivot.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Conscious Pivot. Another episode, another beautiful day. I feel really good right this moment. I got to say that when I woke up this morning, I was leaning into a little sadness, and I spent the first sort of hour of the day in that space. I got on the phone with a friend of mine who was sharing some really cool stuff, some mysticism with me on that topic and he was sharing a little bit about longing and how it is that our souls long for connection and long to rejoin the connection to all that is. The way, if you can, and he said to me, imagine that you're a drop of ocean water and you're out of the ocean and you just want to rejoin the ocean. You want to rejoin source. So it might feel like a lot of things. It could feel like loneliness. It could feel like sadness. It could feel like just low energy or negative thinking or what have you. He says, but it could also be longing. So it's a question. And I loved it because we weren't having a conversation. We were just trying to solve my challenge in the moment. He was just hearing me. And for me, to be vulnerable in that way, it's not that it's difficult. It's that I don't often seize the opportunity with people to do that. I hold space for other people often who are being vulnerable. And I think the way I maybe even view myself in the world, in the business space, or the space that I've been doing business in since I pivoted out of practicing law, which is very much a young warrior type activity, very much battle. I was in battle all the time. And then I went more over to this side of personal growth and human potential and transformation. It's a whole different energy. It's a whole different space. It's much more yin than it is yang, I'd say. And to hold that space and be a positive role model, I don't always feel comfortable in sharing with people that I have my down days, my down moments, and what does it look like and all that. So I shared this with a buddy, and it was so cool for him to just listen and then to offer some insight, which was beautiful. And it made a big impact on me. I thought to myself, I'm curious about what I'm feeling. And it did. It felt like longing. It felt like missing, like missing mother, father, missing something that was at the core and essential. And that really was a great distinction. It didn't shift my energy right away, but over the course of the last couple of hours, I've just really felt much better and felt like, I had my finger on the pulse of something important there. So it's with that energy that I welcome all of you to this podcast, whatever you might be doing, whether you're, you're walking, you're sipping a latte, you're running on the treadmill, you're driving, or you're at work, or whatever it is, wherever you're consuming this. I want to remind you, as I remind myself, and this has particularly poignant meaning for me today, that today is a sacred day. At this moment that we're sharing right now, the breath that we're all sharing, that we're collectively taking in this moment, is sacred and holy. If for no other reason, then there are people everywhere who are taking their last breath right this second. And that makes this a very important moment. And I'm curious about what's going to happen next. I hope you guys are curious, and that you're willing to hold space for that and for your self growth, and for your love of yourself. And I feel blessed that I get to invite a dear soul to join us today. Somebody that actually he'll probably tell the story of how we met. He was reminding me of a couple of circumstances related to that I didn't actually even remember. But this gentleman has, speaking of energy, he's got great energy. He's somebody that I know. My daughter, who I really respect her opinion greatly, our oldest daughter, Chelsea, I respect all of our kids' opinions, to be clear. And Chelsea's really dialed in. So when she digs somebody, when she thinks somebody's cool, I pay close attention. And this man is all that. And as per usual for this podcast, I don't introduce anybody. I ask our guests to share a little bit about what's important, what's miraculous in their life right now, what's happening, and what they feel good about. So without further ado, Josh Trent, welcome to the Conscious Pivot podcast.
Man,
welcome.
Such a cool moment, Adam. Thank you so much for having me. This is special. As I shared with you earlier, about 3 years ago, when your daughter was going through a move, I was staying with a mutual friend, and you actually met me when I was at the bottom of the barrel, moment in my life where I was about to pivot. So I'm just super excited to come on the show, man.
What a blessing, dude. We're going to have some fun. You ready to have some fun?
I'm ready.
Way cool. I was saying to Josh before the show started, I said, it's a most incredible kind of happenstance or what have you. I don't believe in coincidence, but there's something that's happened on this show where people get really real. And in whatever way it feels good to get real. Sometimes people get, angry, and sometimes they, I don't know, get emotional. Other emotions come up. I mean, whatever, it's just perfect. But I'd love it if you'd share a little bit about your pivot journey and where that took you and what you learned and where you're at in these moments today. So before we get to that, if you could share about yourself, and then we'll dive into that, that'd be sweet.
Yes. So I am a podcast host. I host a show in the wellness industry. It's called Wellness Force Radio. I host a second show in the fitness industry where we explore consciousness and technology and how technology is impacting humanity, which both of those topics I could talk to you about on a whole nother podcast. But my journey really started when I was a young kid. I was born in a situation where I didn't have the physiological or the kind of mental tools to deal with life, deal with the stressors of life. My mom, when I was a young kid, she had manic bipolar. And so I always felt this dissension in my chest around not having a home base, not having a place where I just could take kind of that deep breath that we all desire. And I'll never forget this. I was just like going through my life as an adolescent, just feeling all these feelings I didn't want to feel. Well, I found a really powerful drug that a lot of people abuse, and it's called food. So I found food, and I found that food was a way for me to numb all these feelings that I didn't want to deal with. And so, obviously without the mental tools, without the dietary tools, flash forward, I'm 21 years old. I'm drinking beer at a party, Adam, those red party cups. And I'm like trying to numb out there.
I've never seen those.
So I slammed the cup down, and I had this moment where I almost feel like that was kind of my first touch of God. I had been angry at God. I'd been angry at higher intelligence for my whole life because didn't cure my mom's illness. So why should I believe there's something sacred out there? Anyways, I just felt this moment where I was so frustrated, so just angry at how I felt in my body. And I was in the wrong relationship. I was in a career I hated. Everything was wrong. And I slammed the cup down, and I just ran home drunk for like 3 miles. And I felt this download that said, I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want this. And when I got home, I flipped open the computer, and I think I typed in like, how do I be healthy? And the next 18 months were trial by fire. I lost 90 pounds on a low carb diet. I used to be 280 pounds at that time. And so I just really was butting up against this threshold, the hero's journey threshold of like, I do not know what the hell I'm doing. And so research, I moved to Hawaii. I sold everything I owned. I mean, I sold my truck, my clothing, my possessions, just got rid of everything. By the time I got to Hawaii, I was working out at a gym there, and a fitness manager came up to me and he said, hey, you should think about being a trainer. I've seen you get good results, because I played high school football. And I turned to him and I said, what's a trainer? I didn't even know what training was. And so that's what sparked me on this path of using fitness as a catalyst. And then that's what really got me more into wellness, because I think wellness, the integral piece of that is fitness. Most people start letting go of weight, letting go of energy that doesn't serve them through the vehicle of fitness. But by the time they get to wellness, they realize this is a life path that's a continuum. And so that's really who I am now, just kind of like a aggressively curious wellness enthusiast, sparked from my own journey of not having the tools that I needed.
I love that. Aggressively curious wellness enthusiast. Have you used that term before? Is that
no, that just came through me, man. There's something special about the Pivot podcast. You just get your guests to say new things.
Well, I'm writing it down, so we'll have it captured. But that really, I mean, it says a lot. Aggressively curious wellness enthusiast. And so what is it that's aggressive, curious about, you just unpack that a little bit. Because I
Yeah.
think maybe if there's distinctions about wellness, you know, feel free to share. I mean, I think we have some sense of what wellness looks like, although that's different for everybody, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess aggressiveness really is just more of like a voracious hunger. So maybe aggressiveness isn't the perfect word, but when do we ever, focus on perfection? So aggressive, voracious, just hungry for the truth in whatever regard that looks like. Either it's physical or emotional. This is my curiosity is how do I live life well in my physical body? How do I live life well in my heart and in my mind? Those two categories are what our world needs absolutely the most right now. And so
yeah.
that is my mission, to explore that intelligence. I think there's many nuances of that, Adam, within this physical, this emotional, many, many nuances, right? So I guess really just the voracious hunger of how do I find the truth in those two categories and extract only the things that really help people and uplift people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so fascinated with everything marketing these days. Not because I love marketing, but because I've hated marketing for so long, and now I'm so aggressively curious and an enthusiast for
Yeah.
sure for marketing in a new paradigm. So I actually really love the combination of the words. And yeah, aggressively is not always like the word you might think people want to hear, but aggressively
Sure.
curious, right? It's not like you're aggressively, I don't know, offensive or whatever, or
Yeah.
it's that curiosity that what's the extreme parameters or what's the outer limits of curiosity. I don't know that there is any. So
Don't you think curiosity is just a channel for the universe to help us expand? If we're not curious, like, what are we doing? Why not be curious in this world?
I don't know, you're kind of one foot in the grave, I think, if you lose your curiosity. And that's the problem for a lot of adults, right? Kids are curious, and the curiosity is kind of beaten out of them, or kind of berated out of them. It's like mediocrity is more the order of business. Step in line, follow the rules, follow the man. Be one of the one of the assembly line
Well, because then
in
we're
our
not
world.
faced with any kind of growth edge, and then we don't have to step into our power, and we don't have to feel that discomfort as we stretch. And I think that's what I've learned the most. I mean, it's funny. I'm on this incredible named show, Pivot, and I've had so many pivots in my life, which I'm sure everyone listening can relate to. And each pivot has taught me this radical lesson at each moment. And I found, I don't know if you can relate to this, like it's every 4 to 7 years, I feel like I get a big pivot in my life. Some of them have been extremely profound. Sadness, fear, anger, resentment. Some of them have been pivots of love where I'm just like split wide open, and I'm just like, wow, I didn't know I could love that strong.
Mm.
So they've been equally as challenging and also beautiful at the
Yeah.
same time.
Well, dive in. Pick a pivot. Let's pick a pivot. Pick any pivot. It's like like you're
Yeah.
gonna hand out the cards. You're gonna fan out the cards.
Sure.
Well, let's see which one you pick today.
Yes. I wanted to go to 2013 because I feel like from 2013 to 2016 was just this ultimate threshold, like 3 to 4 year threshold of a massive pivot. I was done as a personal trainer. I had helped, 10,000 people or 10,000 hours of training, thousands and thousands of clients lose weight, get more energy. But then I just reached this point, and I think we all can deal with this. And David Dita calls it the layer of purpose. As we peel away one layer, sometimes we don't exactly know what else we want to do. And so I found myself in that space where I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do, but I didn't want what I had that in that moment. And so I went to the endurance sports industry and I sold technology software. I left behind my fitness career. I stopped training clients. I kind of went away from what it was that I thought I loved for so long. And then right at that time, 2013, my mom has a parathyroid condition, and we had to put her into a mental ward, which was just like one of the most challenging things of my life, because it was like a 6-month period where, I had to take my mother who brought me into this planet, and I had to put her in a mental ward. And so, 2013, I'm like dealing with my existential career stress about what am I going to do? What's my presence? Why am I here on this planet? And then boom, lightning bolt, 2013, we put her in a mental institution. And 2014, I start finding out that I don't really love technology sales. I don't really love the endurance sports industry like I thought I would. And so just career, the bottom fell out. Relationship with mom, the bottom fell out. physical health started to decline, like really setting me up for the contrast that I needed so that I could grow. But I was just really unsure. And it was a moment where it was 2014, like at the end of 2014, I was like, I hate where I'm at in my life again. It brought me back right to when I was holding on to old weight. And I got to this point where I'm going to start actually listening to my body. I'm going to start listening to my heart, listening to my body, and I'm going to trust those intuitive signals that I was put on this planet to listen to. But I think for those 2 years, I was just so saturated with fear and tension and just being this bundled condition of nerves where I was just like not responding. I was just reacting to life for 2 years, that I finally got to this place where I was working at this second company. I got recruited because, sometimes in life you're great at things, but you don't love it. And so I was like MVP of sales and I got recruited to another company. That company, a new person came in. I got the gift of being fired. So in the course of a year and a half, mom at a mental institution, doing a career that I hated, and then getting fired from the career that I hated, and just wondering like, what the hell am I going to do now? And so that was the moment where I went to an emotional intelligence training. And I mean, I'm talking like yelling, screaming, crying, which obviously you're no stranger to. You've led millions of people in this. So.
I yell and scream and cry all the time.
Right? Yeah. So in this kind of epoch of my transition here, of my pivot, my mom's health started to get better. We were able to figure out a situation for her. I started to really feel this magnetic pull towards exploring what it meant to be well in my body and in my heart. And that's what led me to found Wellness Force. I started the podcast. I'll never forget. I was driving one day. I was with my ex-girlfriend, and I was like, we have to pull over, because I got a download in this moment. And I just recorded for 10 minutes that I was going to launch a podcast. I was going to use wearable and wellness technology to help people be more accountable. I was going to have this show where I could inspire people about consciousness and tech and wellness, because that's what's most needed right now as technology grows. And it was just this beautiful transition that came from, God, so many months, years really, of just feeling pain and unsuredness, being in a cave of freaking darkness and not really knowing where to go. So I think 2013, 2016, biggest pivot of my life. And I met you in the guest room after I had broken up with my girlfriend who I was living with at that time. So mother got sick, going through career transition, then breaking up with my girlfriend, having to stay in a friend's home on the couch. And actually, a couple nights after I met you, Adam, I went to the golf course. I was overlooking our mutual friend's Jeremy. It was living on a golf course. And I just cried. I just cried for like 10 minutes because I was just like overwhelmed with life and just unsure. And I was like, you know what? After I cried, I felt like it was so good to just let that out. It was so good to just feel the feelings I was feeling. And that is what led me. That was the secret sauce, to just freaking allow myself to feel my feelings, that really made the podcast grow, that allowed me to have the success I have now, just giving myself the permission to feel.
Yeah. You think about that. That's so, you think, man, when did we lose permission? When was permission to feel sort of taken away? And I say that in that way because there are a lot of people that's the biggest challenge, is the sort of the way that they are suppressing their feelings, that they are, either sedating them or trying to control them. It's like the yin is the sedation and the yang, the male is the control, right? And whether it's, whatever drug of choice or alcohol or other activities, passive aggressive behaviors and things like that we all do or have done to try to sedate or control the feelings that are uncomfortable, the sort of unintegrated things of our past, but usually they're experiences and charged experiences, energy that's charged with negative memories from childhood, from those early years. I'm just curious, have you ever read Michael Brown's The Presence Process? Have you ever checked that book out?
I've heard about The Presence Process. I would love to explore it. I really love Byron Katie's work. Just those 4 powerful questions that'll shift anyone's state radically. So I would love to check out that book.
Yeah. Do you know those questions by memory?
I know the first one, which is the most important one. And
Cool.
It's when we're going through a thought process that's giving us tension and fear and scarcity, we get to ask ourselves, after we take that deep breath, is it true? Like really, like take away the emotion here. Is the thought that you're thinking actually true? Like, are you a shitty, can we cuss on your show?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Are you a shitty speaker? Or is that just a lie keeping you safe?
Yeah.
Are you really ugly? Do you really not have what it takes to succeed at work? Is your past experience truly the reason why you can't move forward now? And I think that is the most powerful question. And then she has things that she calls turnarounds and workarounds and whatnot. But I think that one question is the most profound.
Yeah. Randy did a live training this morning on Facebook. Randy, my wife, Randy, the most amazing woman I know. And she shared a question with me that a mentor of hers shared with her years ago. And I'll share this question now. It's, again, one of those turnaround questions, really powerful. And that is, what's the creative opportunity? And often, I think when we're in emotional states, when we feel shitty about something, or we're feeling fear, or we're feeling self-loathing, or guilt, or shame, or what have you, it doesn't feel like there's anything good there. I mean, it just sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks the air out of the space. It just feels dark and just shitty, right? So to look at it from a standpoint of look at it through a creative lens, which is what she was training and teaching on, was about lenses, the lenses we see things through. And your earlier, when you described yourself as aggressively curious wellness enthusiast, and that's the deal, is that curiosity. Can you be curious even in the midst of pain, even in the midst of your own inner pain or turmoil? And that's a higher level tool. Let's put it that way. I'm not saying that somebody that can do that or knows that or teaches that is somehow more intelligent or more worthy or anything than anybody else, because I don't buy that shit at all. But I do think it's a skill set that when you use that tool in those moments when you're in the most pain, which is usually self-inflicted pain, that's powerful, and that's a game changer.
Well, and I think the curiosity is an edge of growth. And like we were talking about earlier, maybe what makes someone stifle or compress down their curiosity is when they've been curious before and they got hurt. And I know, like, listen, my relationship with my father, I have done an incredible amount of work to process that and just show up for him the best I can in a place of love and not in judgment. And so my work, even now as a 37-year-old male, in this wellness industry where I'm interviewing these world-class authors about how to show up powerfully, well, guess what? I get to still do my work. I get to still practice with my father, who doesn't have the same kind of communication style that I do, right? And there's always been a longing inside of me to just connect with that trusted male energy, which so many of us who are men listening can relate to. I mean, if we don't have the right leadership emotionally from men in our lives that we respect, especially that father figure. I mean, listen, you came out of their body, like they brought you to this planet. That is such a special and incredible gift, a unique gift. So a lot of dads out there, they do their best, but let's be real, like sometimes their best isn't enough for what the child needs. And so we spend our adult lives processing, growing, still coming from a place of love, even if we feel the sense of being hurt. And I think that translates to a lot of people having eating habits that push down that pain, having drug habits that push down that pain, instead of actually doing the inner work. The inner work is what gets you through the outer appearance. Like that's how you actually transition.
And not to diminish, I want to ask you your opinion on this, but is it's not to diminish the quality of the food that you ingest, right? Like I was about to take a sip of this beautiful green drink.
I'm kind of jealous.
It's an alkalizer.
Got a green smoothie right now.
Yeah, I got a good green smoothie. We have it every day. So the food you eat, what you the water, the quality of the water, the air you breathe, all these things are super important in the sense of creating an environment, a better environment to be well in. Yeah. But so much of what is not integrated in our emotional body is reflected in the things that we do, the things we take into our body. So the smoking, the drinking, the crap food, or whatever it is, the fast food, or as they like to call it, the quick serve food these days. Things of that sort are derived in the emotional, so that people eat because of emotions. Is that your experience in working with folks, that there's a lot of emotions that are at the root of why they eat what they eat, or exercise or don't exercise, and all that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I think you put your finger right on the pulse of, I would say, probably 95% of why most diet programs, most nutrition programs, most wellness programs don't work. They don't give people the results that they're craving because they're craving something that's an unprocessed energy. Like we're a battery, okay? So negative, positive post. If you have negative energy inside of you and you haven't done the work to process and release that energy, and by the way, there's so many modalities, right? Bioenergetics, mastering transformational training, some of your courses that you've taught, like there's many ways to get this out. But if we don't get that out, that energy is almost like you're carrying a radio flyer wagon with concrete behind you all day long. And it's exhausting. So if your body's tired, if your physical body's tired because of your emotional load, your body has high blood sugar. When your body has high blood sugar, it can't burn fat. When your body can't burn fat, then you're going to have excessive lipid storage. So it's this cascade of negative events. And then, of course, when you have lipid storage in excess, you have all these other health conditions that are deleterious. So,
which means you should be taking pills, prescribed medications to solve. Yes.
That's the Band-Aid approach, right? And so the reason that's successful is because the ivory tower is the paradigm of, pharma, insurance, and medical that's existed for so long because no one really wants to deal with the underlying issue. The root cause of all disease is stress, internal stress. Now, there's eustress and distress. I mean, eustress is great. Without stress, we would die. We need some stress. But that long, slow drip of toxic stress that we all feel every day at the job we hate, in the relationship we hate, not dealing with the emotions from our childhood and our lives that are just weighing us down, putting that physiological load so that we can't show up psychologically clear. That's the big piece. And that is the one where there's no template, Adam. There's no plan that you can give somebody in a 10-question PDF about how they can heal their childhood. They have to walk that path on their own. Knowing is great, but how do you connect the bridge between knowing and trusting and doing? That's the big piece. Everybody wants to get all this knowledge, but then what do you do just because you have a bunch of certifications? You still have to walk that trustable bridge to executing it.
Yeah, this is a great conversation. Wow. So Josh, this came up the other day. I want to share this with you, and with not just with you, but everybody who's watching and listening. I feel like we're in a personal conversation here, which is very cool. Yeah. I lost the context there for a second. There's a difference between believing and knowing, and it's interesting because when you talk about knowing is about trusting. Knowing to me is your being trusting of yourself or trusting in someone else or something else so that you can have confidence in it. So it's faith. And belief is it's sort of a hope. It's a strong hunch. It's even a belief that's really strong, that you believe that something is there, is a level at which you have to assume that what you believe is true, but you don't know it to be a certainty. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And belief requires, when you take action based on a belief, it requires courage. It has to require courage because you really don't know it to be a fact, right? Man, it's just potentially something someone shared with you. But go ahead.
This is so powerful. This is so, like, you're lighting me up right now, because my favorite quote is from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he says, "Do the thing and you'll have the power." You don't have the courage first and then you get more courage. Like, you do it even in the face of the fear. When I was on the golf course crying, I didn't know what the hell my life was going to look like. When I met you, Adam, I was about to have the biggest pivot of my adult life. And the only reason that happened is because I just dealt with my shit. I literally did trainings and workshops and just explored what that really meant for me. And no, I didn't have the ultimate beacon of faith back then. I'm developing my faith. It's a continuum for me. Yes. Without my connection to something bigger, my mission must be bigger than me. It has to be bigger than me. That's my style. That's my personality. If I do things just for me so that I can grow and I can not be uncomfortable and I can make it about me, like, that's not sustainable. That is not a sustainable growth paradigm.
No. And how do you bridge? So this is what triggered when you were speaking earlier, that there's a bridge between the knowing, the believing and the knowing. So it's good to have a belief and then to act on that belief so that you can learn something which enables you to know something. And it's from that place of knowing that you can have, you've got proof, you've got evidence, and that you can be confident, truly confident, not false confidence or false competence, but to have that knowing, that place. But you can't start with knowing. It doesn't work like that. Life is
Yeah.
is when we talk about curiosity, and life is about experiences. To be curious means you'll gain more experience of living, which will teach you more things. So therefore you will know more things. And many of the things that we are taught are things you're taught things that work, and you're taught things that don't work. And the things that don't work are things that you might call mistakes or failures or hard times or things you regret or have guilt or shame about. And yet those are some of the greatest knowings. They lead to the greatest knowings if we are willing to be with them, as you said earlier, to really dive in and experience those things, to process them is the word you used.
And we're always course correcting. I talked about the wearable technology component and how, if you look at the work of Peter Diamandis right now and the X Prize and just the exponential growth that we're seeing in tech, really, what are these devices? These devices at their deepest core are essentially mirrors of mindfulness for us, how we're sleeping, how we're eating, how we're moving. And then, of course, once we're correcting those habits, what's going to pop up? How we're thinking, feeling, and acting. Once you start fixing your sleep and the way that you eat food and the quality of that food and the way that you sleep, if you really dig in to giving yourself what you deserve in those 3 habits, the thoughts, feelings, and actions that are actually driving those habits from being healthy are the ones that are going to peek through. And then the real work begins. Most people just want to focus on diet and exercise, and how am I sleeping? What CrossFit workout should I do? And that's great. But can we just take a massive deep breath here and look at the continuum of wellness? Wellness is our body, mind, and spirit. Like, it's not just a hashtag. This is real for all of us.
And it's inside out, right?
It's
an
inside
out process. You can't just change diet. You can't just change your workout schedule or to adopt an exercise regimen, because that by itself might even cause potentially more stress, right?
Yeah.
You could potentially stress yourself out even more so if you're not integrating, doing inner work at the same time that you're trying to, make some massive change in what your diet is or what your exercise routine is.
Some people might have motivation for a wedding or a high school reunion, or they just want to physically on the outside make people see how awesome they are. But unless they've done the inner work, that's only going to be a short-term result, right? And so the driver has to be joy and abundance and self-love. Temporary results can be achieved through anger. Anger is way more powerful than despair. So if we're angry and we want to lose weight so we can finally get the love we want, I fell into that trap in my 20s. That's what led me to lose 80 pounds and gain back 60, was having the wrong motivation to let go of the weight. We can't let go of the weight unless we are aware and in touch with the reason of why it's there. Then we can actually let it go. But if we're not in touch, then we'll get some short-term results. But guess what? That weight's coming back with interest.
Let's go back to the rituals or the practices, because you use the word habits. So when I talk rituals, folks know I mean master habits, kind of the ones that we do consciously, like the conscious pivots, not running on sort of habitually how it is that we deal with change or manage change or utilize change, but what do we consciously do to really be curious, like you said earlier? So what's one or more than one habit? If it's a 2-part, 3-part, it's fine. But new habit, new ritual that people might consider to be able to do this dance that you're talking about.
Yeah, the number one is when you get up in the morning, give yourself 20 ounces of water with lime in it and then a little pinch of salt. There's a couple of things here. That's the number one, because you're starting your day with something that's replenishing and revitalizing and nourishing you. You lose trace minerals when you sleep. So having some high quality sea salt, maybe some Celtic sea salt in there, it's going to give you back the minerals. You're dehydrated when you sleep because your body's, letting go of water as you sleep. So you do that and you take in the lime. The lime, it promotes intestinal motility. So you're going to get like a bowel movement quicker than you actually would with coffee. So you do those 3 things, and I would say that's the most powerful habit. Of course, I know on the show you've talked about the power of meditation, and there are millions and millions of articles online about this. Having even a 5-minute meditation after you do your sea salt, your lime, and your water, that's powerful because you're checking in. So how do you start your day? You're replenishing yourself. You're giving yourself nourishment. You're giving yourself hydration. You're filling yourself up. Then you're clearing your head so that you can create a powerful day. So those two things, I mean, I can't think of a better way to start the day, with just 5 to 10 minutes of silence and breathing and replenishing yourself with that water, sea salt, and lime. And then, of course, the rest of your day could be that third category of how do I show up mindfully in each moment, which is like total lesson of continuum process for me. But those are my three.
Beautiful, beautiful, Josh. So I will share one final thought on this, and I will say this has been a joy. It's been nothing but a blessing to be here with you, Josh. So
Likewise.
Thank you for taking the time with us. And I know folks are going to love to find out more about you. So before I conclude with just a couple of things, where's the best place people can either check out podcasts from you or anything else that you'd love to have them look at?
So yeah, thank you for giving me this space. As I said before you hit the record button, you have such an incredible way to hold presence for people. And there were moments where I just felt safe to share. So thanks for that. And you can find me at wellnessforce.com. I mean, I'm all over the internet. Just type in Wellness Force. If I said something today that sparked you or you're more curious about it, please write to me. It's josh@wellnessforce.com.
Beautiful. Wellnessforce.com. So everybody, right wherever you are right now, take a deep breath. So this is good because even if you're operating heavy machinery, it's totally cool. You can take deep breaths doing almost anything. In fact, you can take deep breaths doing anything. And that is a blessing that we get to share together, this breath, this moment, that we get to feel connected. So even though I can't see you, and maybe you can see me if you're watching this or if you're just listening, either way, we are connected. And it may be that the universe has given us this riddle of life, or the way life is, it's a bit of a riddle where we think that we're separate when we're not. We think that we're apart when we're together. We think that we're different, and we're truly the same. And I pray, I give thanks ahead of time for that wisdom being a part of my every waking moment. I'd be lying if I said that it was a part of my every waking moment, but it is certainly a part of this moment. And for that, I am grateful. I also want to remind everybody that as rituals go, the one I advocate, because I use it every day and I hope it's of use to you, is that you wake up tomorrow. So I hope everybody, and I pray that everybody wakes up tomorrow, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that we just raise our collective consciousness as a world by the first thoughts that we entertain when we wake tomorrow. And of course, waking is a blessing all by itself. So wake up, be in gratitude in that moment for something, for anything, even for the breath that you're taking, because in that moment, there are people who will be taking their last breath on this earth. So that's a blessing to be grateful for. And then stand up if you can do that. What a blessing. What a privilege it is to just be able to be on our feet. Not everybody can do that even. But however, whether you're standing or you're sitting, put your hand on your heart, your hands on your heart, throw your arms up in the air and declare out loud, I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. I love all of you. I'm very grateful to Josh Trent for being with us today. And this has been a beautiful, beautiful session. If you haven't yet subscribed to our podcast, go ahead and do that. Don't wait any longer. Subscribe. But either way, if you want to check out the rest of the podcast, you can do that, obviously. And you can also come and spend some time with us at Start My Pivot Facebook group. That community is growing. You can get to it from startmypivot.com. You can get to it from Facebook directly, and that community, of course, if you join that community, it's a closed group. You have to request access, and there's a little bit of a vetting process. It's not a big deal, but we just want to make sure that it's a good alignment, a good fit. And so you got to answer a couple questions to get in there. And when you're in there, please be an active member of the community. I know it's great to watch. It's fun to watch other people doing their stuff and all that kind of thing. But we've all got to step up and be an active part of whatever it is we're co-creating. So, leave a comment for somebody, show them some love, some support. If you feel brave, go ahead and share something that's going on in your world. We love to be able to step up and be of value. And I can say this, nobody gets left behind. That's all I can promise you. nothing else, but nobody gets left behind. And so lots and lots of love. Have a beautiful and a blessed day. And Josh, thank you again for being here with us.
Such a joy. Thank you.
Way cool. All right. Ciao for now, everybody.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you now have the tools and greater insights to navigate your own pivot. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at adammarkel.com/podcasts. For more tips, strategies, and support as you consciously pivot into a new business and lifestyle you love, join our Pivot community on Facebook at pivotfb.com.